Hello, everybody. Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas. I'm going to share a story that I posted on Facebook today. I think you're going to find it real interesting. I named this "She Called the Police and I Asked for a Divorce." Okay, it's not a long read here. It says, on November 20th, 2011, I came home from work and I couldn't find my handgun. This was extremely concerning to me since I had criminals breaking into my home every day and the police wouldn't do anything. I was upset and scared because I believed they were dangerous. That was proven when they later cut my phone lines and shot me. By this time, I was starting to see that the ex-wife was not on my side as she had pretended to be when I married her 3 months earlier. She is now alleged to be involved in the murder attempt by her former boyfriend. The ex-wife called the police to my home that night over this, even though there was no real reason, and I found my gun before they got here. I patiently waited for them to arrive as I wanted to show them some text messages that she had sent me which explained the craziness that I was living under. A police officer comes to my home and asks me what is going on, so I offer to show him the messages on my phone, but he surprises me and slaps the phone out of my hand while handcuffing me. I was then taken outside and down the street to where his car was parked. Another officer arrives and I recognized him. I had seen him about a week earlier when the ex-wife had taken my gun and was threatened suicide. I was then placed in the back of the police car, and as I went to sit down, I saw a baggie of marijuana already laying in the seat. The message was clear that these were dirty cops and they were threatening to frame me for drugs. I feared for my life. Their names on the police report were Blake Bush and Trent Sellers. Interestingly, I was told the previous owner, Mike Lawhon, was incarcerated for drugs before he died. I was told that he was reporting people breaking in his home, so I wondered if Midland police did the same thing to him before he was murdered and taken to Fort Worth. Anyway, I was told by these police, we better not be called back over here again for this stuff. I took this to mean that they didn't want me to report the burglaries at my home, aka people in the attic crimes. It's become clear that our police are working with these violent criminals that tried to murder me in a home invasion. I offered to show them evidence, but they refused to look. I told them that I was done with the ex-wife and that we were getting a divorce. They left my home, and when I got back inside, the proof messages on my phone had been deleted. I told the ex-wife that I was going to cut my losses and that we're getting a divorce. That was the last straw, and it was clear that she was working against me instead of with me. She said some very interesting things that night. One thing she told me after the police left was, "We're creating a document trail on you." This has led me to believe that they were planning my murder weeks in advance. This made me wonder if they did the same thing to Mike Lawhon. He was arrested for drugs right before he died, and I believe that was another murder that was covered up. Maybe they framed him for drugs and created a document trail on him. She also told me, Danny said that we'll just take your house. I asked my brother Danny about this, and he denied saying that, and in fact, he has denied knowing anything about the crimes against me while refusing to help me, even though I live under the threat of death after surviving a premeditated murder attempt that left me crippled for life. I really wish that my family would stand behind me against these violent criminals. 39 days later, I was shot by somebody under my home with my phone lines cut and burglar alarms going off in the attic. The reason I didn't call the police and report that home invasion was because of the threat by those two police officers, Blake Bush and Trent Sellers. I think we can all agree that they should be investigated for their part in the crimes and murders at my house, and if they know about the underground homes here, then arrested and charged. I would later see that there was 2 incident reports for this call. I suspect this happened during the planning stage. There's no doubt that these are dirty cops who are trying to cover up the crimes and murders at my home connected with the underground homes here. This was the first report. There's the incident number on it, and it come in at 7:13 p.m. on 12/20/2011, and it was a non-emergency. See, I didn't see that until a couple years later, until I saw. Oh wow! I wonder why there was 2 of them. Well, then they planned another one. Now they wrote a second incident report, and this one coming in at 18. Okay, so just a few minutes, about 5 minutes later, oh, okay, now we got a plan. Let's go over there and try to and threaten to frame him for drugs and stop him from calling the police about people in the attic because we're working with them. That's what I really think, you know. And here's compliant advised that her husband, Buddy Webb, came home, told wife someone has been getting in their house and stealing stuff. She's been letting them. And compliant advised that he hid his firearm, claimed that she stole it. Advised that her husband's going crazy. He's currently being treated for ADHD. Okay, you know that. So that's what it is. ADHD. Blake Bush and Trent Sellers. Okay, here we go. Male half extremely 1096. See, I found out that everybody that reports people in the attic, and there's a whole bunch of them. I've documented over 50, over a dozen in Midland that the police automatically call them crazy, call them 1096, and that's how they're working with them. That's the modus operandi to get away with these drugs. And you know, my friend, she wrote, it's a shame those text messages were not screenshot to where they would have been in your gallery, unbeknownst to them. Them deleting them wouldn't have done any good, you know. She read the story. And I said, I'm a lifelong supporter of the police. So imagine my surprise when I find out that police are working with this gang of criminals involved in burglary, theft, and murders all across the nation. You know, they cut my phone lines and tried to kill me. These are cold-blooded killers are what they are. And I did a little follow-up on this too. Here, I want to read it real quick. My realtor, Janine Pruitt, told me that the young previous owner was incarcerated for drugs when I first looked at that house. That was Mike Lawhon. So I didn't think anything about being told that he overdosed a few weeks later. But after the police threatened to frame me with drugs over the crimes at this house, and the ex-wife told me they were creating a document trail against me, I wondered if they did the same thing to Mike before he died. Maybe they framed him for drugs, arrested him, created the document trail, and then murdered him. You know, I think that's a valid question. I found other evidence that has convinced me that Mike was murdered here and taken to Fort Worth. His death certificate says he overdosed in Fort Worth, but a former neighbor, Marilyn DeLuigi, told me twice that he died in this house. And one time she lowered her voice and said, I should know, right? She also said that somebody else died here before him. Marilyn's statements were confirmed by local businessman Aaron Packelhofer, who asked me on Facebook if I knew the names of the 4 people had been murdered, died in my house. I have the print screen on that right here. 4 people. Let that sink in before they cut my phone lines and shot me with police under my home. In addition, I Googled Mike Lawhon and I saw that the Odessa American posted a death notice for him saying that he died in Fort Worth. But 4 days later, they posted a second and revised death notice saying he died at his residence, which confirmed what Marilyn told me. That is totally unheard of. I mean, that is huge proof in itself. Somebody down there knows. Somebody called them and told them to change that and say, no, don't say he died in Fort Worth. Say he died here in Midland. Interestingly, this 27-year-old father of 2 boys died the week before the 2008 Permian Basin International Oil Show started, and I don't think that is a coincidence, since it's now known there's a secret underground home in the backyard believed to have been hosting oil show parties. Is this where it's believed the 2010 oil show parties were going on that my friend Angie was at, who told me about the young girl being murdered for refusing to prostitute, a party that she said high-level police were at? This is the previous owner, 27 years old, dies the week before the 2008 oil show started. Like I said, I was told that he was incarcerated for drugs, so I didn't think nothing about it when I was told he overdosed a few weeks later. Real fishy what's going on there. And this is the screenshot where a woman was telling me Mike was telling his friends that somebody was breaking into his house. And I tell you what, I've long suspected that these oil companies, multi-billion-dollar oil companies, are the ones that are paying bribes to these police and elected leaders to cover up the crimes and murders here. And there's obviously an underground home here, and there's actually 4 of them, and with a lot of evidence backing it up. It's absolute 100% lawlessness with multiple murders. This is Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas.